sure the testing.
I know. Uh-oh, it's not on yet, is it?
Okay.
I'm speaking now.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear a reply? Hello.
Perfect. Finished. That was easy.
For once.
I know. All right.
Learn to win unseen. Yeah, well, that's it.
Ready? Welcome to UC San Diego Health Science International. I'm Maureen Curran, and I have with me today Dr. Patrick Delaney, who is our faculty advisor, and Dr. Amir Hasnain, who works with us in our pharmacy program.
Good morning.
So a few housekeeping items before we begin. First, thanks for joining us. And if you'll be so kind, I see most of you have your microphone on mute. If you haven't done that, we'd appreciate it if you'll do it. It makes the audio much clearer. If you have questions, please feel free to type them in at any time, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentations. That way, again, it makes the audio much clearer and easier for everybody to understand. If at any point during the video conference, if you cannot hear us, just also type that into the chat box and it will alert us, and we'll try to address that problem quickly. So with that being said, I'd like to turn the discussion over to Dr. Delaney to talk about pharmacy opportunities in the United States.
One person says they cannot hear us. I'm not sure what everyone else.
Uh-oh.
It's just that it works.
It's like two can't.
No, it's the same person.
Hello?
If you can hear us,
Yeah,
type
it
in,
says
please.
people thought it was working.
But when we speak and pause, there's no replay. Hello?
No, see, it says info. Okay.
we should see if someone else
Yeah,
is
it's
hearing
working.
it.
It works fine.
Oh, there's the replay. That'd be good.
Okay, is the, a few people typed in that they cannot hear. Can you hear me now? On our end, it's showing that it's working. Okay, well, should we just proceed?
Sure.
Great.
If you want to go to the slides, then. So, welcome, Dr. Patrick Delaney. Completing pharmacy school is a big deal, and so my congratulations to those who have either already finished or are nearing completion. That's a good time to rethink the future in terms of what you want to do and where you want to go. Here in the United States, the role of pharmacists, as I think we'll hear in a minute, has really changed over the last few years in terms of the need for specialization to be part of medical teams. As a neurologist, we rely, for instance, on pharmacists for a great many things, different infusions, etc. And so if one would like to pursue that kind of training, there's a good reason to do that in the United States, and I think you can read those on the screen. What really drives the U.S. being advanced in clinical skills, whether it's pharmacy or medicine, is the basic science foundation that it's built on. So yes, there are 4 of the top 10 pharmacy schools. Yes, there are 6 of the top 10 medical schools. But that really comes after the research universities, the biological sciences, life sciences, have already been so long established. So a good reason to come here for that clinical training. It's particularly convenient for us here at UCSD because it has always been a powerhouse in terms of research in biological sciences. And as the result of that, the pharmacy school is highly ranked, the medical school is highly ranked. The research continues to be one of the main drivers of this campus, and Nobel Prizes, as you can see. And so in terms of clinical training here, it pretty much offers us everything that we need. In terms of graduate medical education, there are 98 accredited residency and fellowship programs. The ACGME is for medicine and surgery specialties, but there are also 40 other fellowships as well, including several in pharmacy. 1,000 residents and fellows, 1,400 clinical faculty, and all of the infrastructure in terms of clinics, multiple hospitals, training sites. And so in terms of the pharmacy program, I'm going to turn that over to my colleagues here in a moment. But the programs here are fully capable of providing the internship hours needed along with the FIPG to advance that next level of considering residency training, specialty training. That training here additionally allows the individual to be in an elite U.S. healthcare institution, which really can be quite different from community-based hospitals or hospitals in some of the other countries that we interact with. The program benefits the pharmacy scholars as well, in the sense that they're clinically active right up until the time they're joining residency. There's a program letter from us to those residencies detailing that training. And we help the residents to be prepared for the match. It doesn't quite stop there, though. We don't want people to just barely qualify for residency and then hang on by their fingernails. What we really want is for them to succeed all the way through residency and to be fully prepared for a career in pharmacy specialties. And so when you're looking for training, those are the things you ought to look for before taking that next step. So,
fantastic. Thanks, Dr. Delaney. So just a quick description of the program that we offer here at UCSD to facilitate career development. Has two separate components. The first component is for individuals who have not received the Foreign Pharmacist Graduate Equivalency certification, the FIPG certification. So in order to be able to practice in the United States, anyone who's graduated from a school abroad must pass an exam called the FIPG, Foreign Pharmacist Graduate Exam, which is offered each year in April and October, and can only be taken in the United States. And in addition, you also have to have a TOEFL score of 93 with specific scores in each band. So even if you get 93, but your score is off in one of the bands, it will not count towards FIPG certification. So the first piece of our program provides individuals with instruction targeted to passing the FIPG and also receiving a TOEFL score of 93. I can tell you that for the initial groups of pharmacists in our program, the much larger hurdle has been getting that TOEFL score. That's basically the equivalent of being a native English speaker. So I would encourage anyone who's thinking about coming to the States to pursue a career in pharmacy to make sure that you really focus a lot on your English language. Once someone receives the FIPG certification, they can move into the second phase of our program, which has several different components. But the primary piece that most people from outside the US need in order to be able to qualify for residency is a 1,500-hour advanced practice experience, or equivalent to what is called the APPE in the United States. And that piece is often lacking in PharmD programs outside of the US. So that's why we've constructed the ability for people to do that. And that, in essence, allows you to sit for the NAPLEX exam, which is the National Pharmacy Licensing Exam, which is required to become a resident. So in addition to the 1,500 clinical hours, we do preparation for the NAPLEX. We do some other advanced pharmacy coursework. We work with you on the matching process for residency. So preparing you to work on your applications, to do the interviews, to go to the residency showcase events that are held in conjunction with some of the pharmacy meetings here in the United States. And I'm really proud to say that in our first group of pharmacists who went through the program, 3 people applied for the match and 3 people were successful in matching, which exceeds the rate of matching for US students. Right now for US students, the matching rate for pharmacy residency is about 57%. So we're grateful that our first group of scholars worked quite hard to achieve their goals, and that we've been able to help facilitate that for them. And with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Amir to chime in about his experience working with our scholars and pathways for pharmacists in the US.
Pardon me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Amir Hassanin. I'm a practicing pharmacist in California, which is notoriously the hardest state to get registered in, and have been for the past 15 years. Wow, it's been that long. One of the paths forward that the practice of pharmacy has had over the past decade, 2 decades, has been the requirement to have a residency to go into clinical practice. By clinical practice, I mean hospital inpatient setting, outpatient acute setting, ambulatory care, ambulatory setting. And what we're finding is, as the practice of medicine and the practice of pharmacy specifically progresses, the need for residencies progress. As a corollary, if you will, I remember when I graduated 15 years ago, the number of pharmacist applicants to residency positions was roughly a 1-to-1 or a 1.5-to-1, where at this point it's gone to almost a 2-to-1 ratio to demonstrate how pharmacy practice has moved towards a residency based system because of the need for specialization. Now, the way residencies in the US works is there are 2 different categories. Your first year is always going to be your PGY1, or what we call postgraduate year 1, which is a general pharmacy practice residency. And then after that, you can go into a more specialized residency in areas such as critical care, oncology. I believe there's ambulatory care as a specialization, and those are effectively you're tailoring your practice to what you find most interesting. And what we find is that as pharmacists progress towards these paths, they become more independent and more relied upon as a part of the clinical care team. So to that end, our goal here with this program is to have our international scholars prepared for not just the application to residency and the match, but to make sure that they're successful in their actual residency programs. So what I work with specifically with the scholars has to do both with it's 2 parts. One is kind of getting everyone on the same page that U.S. pharmacy students are on when they apply. So getting their presentational skills ready, getting their expectations in line to what students who have been in the U.S. have been taught for the past 4 years. So we do case presentations, we do drug disease state presentations. I find that helps get the scholars TOEFL scores a little bit better because they're practicing their English in front of people and in a conversational situation, not just as a testing-based situation, but also it gets you used to actually presenting for when you do start to go for your residency interviews. One of the key components for many sites for the residency interview is actually a case presentation. So getting the scholars used to that situation where they have prepared a presentation. They've got their questions rehearsed. They've got their cases rehearsed and locked in their mind, makes them more successful as they go through the application process. And then moving forward into the residency itself, these types of presentations are an integral part of all residencies. So it gets you into a place where you are more successful when you move forward. In addition to that, we also provide some clinical-based education as well. The cases that we work on in here are tailored to actually reinforce learning that you'll need for the NAPLEX. And if you choose to get licensed in California, the CPJ, which does have a large clinical component as well.
Wonderful, thanks for that description. So I think you can see that we have a very well-rounded program, hopefully to prepare people for their future careers. And our program was designed to follow a model that we've done with physician training, where we've also had really great success in terms of the match rate. So we're hoping this pharmacy program, we just started it almost exactly a year ago, and we're very excited to continue to offer it. And I'd like to ask at this time, if you have any questions, if you'll please go ahead and type them into the chat box.
While we're waiting for that, I think that one of the most common questions that's come up before is what that match preparation entails, and both for pharmacy and for medical and surgical residencies, the application process really has to be tailored to who's actually making the decisions, which is the program director. It's not the institution of the University of California. It's not typically not some committee. It's one individual. And so that preparation, the personal statement, the CV, there's really specific things that program directors look for, and that might not be as obvious to someone who's applying internationally as to individuals who've come through the US system all the way through. And I think those small things can make a very big difference. Over the last 8 years, it certainly seems to have had a major impact on our success.
One thing I do like to stress with the scholars is, for every residency program that you apply to, you should have a separate CV, a separate personal statement that is tailored towards that particular institution. And if you know the program director of said institution, tailored towards them. Actually, one of the things that we like to encourage is going out to showcases like APHA and American Pharmacists Association, where they have showcases and you can meet program directors and staff, get to know them one-on-one, be able to put a face to a name, and also, and this might sound nefarious, but it truly isn't. Get to know the people, get to know what their understanding, what their specialties are, and what their interests are, so you can tailor your personal statements towards that.
Wonderful. I think, Dr. Amir, one question is, what area of pharmacy do the international scholars seem least prepared in, or things that they can start to do to prepare prior to entering a program, or if not coming to a program like ours, to prepare themselves to come to the States?
What I found is from a clinical learning perspective, I've been impressed with the clinical education that everyone's gone through. But if I had to pick one area where they need to focus on, it's going to be the implementation of presentations. It is a way to both demonstrate your knowledge. You can be the most brilliant pharmacist around, but if you can't actually communicate to the people that you need to convey your information to, be it your patients that you're counseling, or the interviewer that's interviewing you for residency, or a case presentation to your peers, it doesn't do anyone any good. So if I had to pick one place where everyone, and this is most pharmacists, I don't want to say international versus local, but communication skills is going to be highly necessary as a pharmacist and as a member of a healthcare team.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, I think one thing too to help people prepare, the process is lengthy in terms of becoming a pharmacist in the United States. All the steps take time, especially with the FIPG exam only being offered twice a year. That anyone preparing outside the States should look at the timing of their preparation as they're moving forward, so that they know they can only take that exam twice a year. The TOEFL can be taken frequently, but again, it has to be the TOEFL IBT, which I believe has to be done again in the US. So just preparing yourself for that. And then of course, if you need the 1,500 hours of clinical work, that is the equivalent of 9 months of full-time work in the clinical setting in specific rotations. So just prepare yourself in terms of preparing that it's going to take a while for this journey to occur. It's not impossible, but it's a lengthy journey to say the least. So wonderful. Are there any last questions? Okay, so there is a question about how many hospitals in San Diego provide residency programs for pharmacists. There are actually a number of programs in San Diego itself, including at UC San Diego. We partner right now with Scripps Health and with Prime Health in San Diego, who both also offer pharmacy residency programs. We do not guarantee residency for individuals who go through our program. That is not possible or practical for us to do, but we certainly hope that we've prepared you well to apply either here in San Diego or to other locations around the country. And I see there's also another question about where are the clinical rotations, and the answer is no, they are not just at UCSD. They are at, as I mentioned, the Scripps Health system here in San Diego, as well as the Prime Health system. And we're continuing to branch out to other partners so that students have a really well-rounded, varied experience. And for the APPEs, there are 4 required rotations and 2 electives. So each student, after they complete the required rotation successfully, have the opportunity to participate in electives as they're available. Any other questions?
I'm not sure if that question was asked because the asker only wants to practice in California, but the NAPLEX is a national test, not a California state test. California also has a separate test that's usually taken at about the same time as the NAPLEX if you specifically want to practice in California.
And I can actually speak to that a little bit more. So for the licensure for pharmacy licensure, there are a couple different steps. The NAPLEX is the national test that every state accepts as basically the clinical skills or the clinical knowledge exam. And then for multiple states across the US, there is a secondary exam called the MPJE, which is the multi-state jurisprudence exam, which is basically the legal component. The combination of those two are what earns you your pharmacist license in a given state. As pharmacy law is individual to each state in the U.S., certain states have more stringent legal requirements. So like California has the California law exam or the CPJD. I believe Florida has their own individual law exam, as does New York. Those are the 3 that stand out in my mind. So if you wish to practice in any of those states, you will likely have to take an exam separate from the MPJE. Now, if you want to practice strictly in California, that is your goal. You don't have to take that MPJE. You just need the California jurisprudence. But I do like to advise any students that if that is your goal, there are specific study guides for the CPJE, which are more clinically based because it is more clinical based exam. And that is one way you can begin your preparation.
The process is complicated, so if you have questions, feel free to direct them to the website that I think is on the screen.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your time and attention today. We appreciate your logging on. And if you have any additional questions, as Dr. Delaney said, there's the email, the hsinternational@ucsd.edu, or feel free to visit our website at hsi.ucsd.edu. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.